All right, welcome back everyone to Brief Buzz. We are diving into a really interesting situation today.
Yeah, India and China.
Right.
Lots going on there. Always.
Always something, right. But especially now with this disengagement agreement in Ladakh.
Seems promising on the surface.
It does. You see the headlines, soldiers pulling back, exchanging sweets on Diwali, even Modi and Xi meeting at the BRICS summit, their first meeting in 5 years. Seems like things are moving in a positive direction.
For sure.
But we've got Ladakh MP Haji Hanifa kind of pumping the brakes a little bit, urging some caution.
Right. I mean, he's the one who represents the people who are most affected by all this.
Exactly. The Union Territory is only representative in the Lok Sabha. So he's got a pretty important perspective here.
Yeah, and he's not totally rejecting the agreement. He welcomes it, but he's definitely got some skepticism.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of hear that in his statement where he said trusting China completely is difficult, which, I mean, he's not wrong.
No, he's got a point. Historically, there's definitely been some instances where China's actions haven't always aligned with what they said they'd do.
Right. I mean, we go back to 1962, even more recently, the clashes in the Galwan Valley back in 2020.
Exactly. So there's reason to be a little cautious.
Yeah. And Hanifa's quote really captures, I think, the human cost of this conflict when he said, "Those of us who live near the border know what war feels like. We desire peace." That really hits home.
It does. It definitely puts things in perspective.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this disengagement agreement. What's actually changing on the ground?
So the agreement focuses on two key areas, Depsang and Demchok, both of which have been major flashpoints in this border standoff that started back in 2020.
Right.
Now, Depsang is particularly strategic because it controls access to a pretty important highway, so having a presence there is a big deal.
Makes sense.
This agreement has both sides pulling back troops a specific distance, creating a buffer zone.
And it sounds like they followed through on that, at least initially.
So far, yeah. It seems like they are at least taking the first steps, which, it's a good sign.
That is a good sign.
Yeah.
But, like we were saying, Hanifa reminds us that trusting China completely is difficult. What has to happen, really, for this to translate into lasting peace?
Right. The disengagement, it's really just the very beginning, There needs to be a lot of follow-through. Both sides have to demonstrate a real commitment to peace. It's not just words, it has to be actions.
Oh, right.
Troop withdrawals need to continue. They need to start building up their military along the LAC. And, this is the big one. They need to keep talking openly and honestly.
Keep that diplomatic dialogue going.
Exactly.
And this isn't just an India-China issue, is it? There are much wider implications here.
Oh, absolutely. If there's going to be any kind of stability in the region, this border dispute needs to be resolved.
Because?
It affects trade, it affects regional security, even impacts the balance of power between the two countries.
Wow, it's incredible how much is tied to this one area.
It really is.
So, to all of our listeners out there, I think it's important to remember what Hanifa is saying. While this agreement is a good first step, peace isn't something you just sign into existence.
Right.
It takes a ton of work, transparency, and commitment from both sides to keep talking.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Absolutely. What do you all think will determine if this actually holds up in the long run?
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, this story is definitely not over.
Not even close.
We'll keep you updated, of course.
For sure.
But for now, that's it for Brief Buzz.
See you next time.